fasting, huh? It's everywhere you look these days, but your source material goes way beyond the hype with this one.
It really does.
Fasting, the healer within. Two brothers, right?
Yeah.
Sinclair and Saxon. And they just dive right in. 20 days on just water, then another 20 on juice.
It's been intense.
Intense. And they're not doing it to fit into like a smaller swimsuit for summer or anything. This is different.
This is about so much more than that.
So tell me why. Why would anyone put themselves through that?
Well, each brother, he has his own reasons.
Okay.
So Sinclair's the older brother. He's a rugby player.
Yeah.
He's got this chronic pain from an old injury.
Oh, wow.
And he's tried, everything to get some relief.
Yeah.
Fasting is kind of like his last hope.
So he's looking for healing, for a solution. And what about Saxon, the younger brother? What's his motivation?
So Saxon, he's the picture of health, right?
Yeah.
But seeing his brother go through this, it gets him thinking, like, what if there's something to this whole fasting thing, but for preventing problems?
Yeah, get ahead of it.
Exactly. Why wait for things to go wrong? And I like how they don't just throw these guys to the wolves in this documentary. They bring in some experts.
Okay, good. So who are we talking about? Who weighs in on all this?
Well, they've got Joe Cross. You might know him. He did that Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead documentary, the juice fast thing.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So he's a big believer in the power of fasting. And one thing he really emphasizes is having support. You need that, especially for a longer fast.
Makes sense. It's such a big change.
Huge.
Okay, so Joe Cross, big on support. Who else joins the conversation?
Well, they talked to Dr. Alan Goldhammer. He actually runs a fasting clinic. And he brings up this fascinating point about, like, our modern world. We're surrounded by abundance, right? But our ancestors, they evolved with scarcity.
Right, feast or famine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he's saying maybe we're actually wired for this.
That's interesting. So our bodies might naturally be equipped to handle these periods of fasting.
It's possible, right? And this ties into the whole idea of autophagy. You know how your body kind of cleans house, gets rid of old cells?
Right.
Well, Dr. Goldhammer, he thinks fasting could be like giving that process a boost.
So you're giving your body a chance to like reset and repair itself more effectively.
That's the idea.
Interesting. So is everyone on board with this? Are all the experts like fasting is amazing, everyone should do it?
Not so fast.
Yeah.
They also talked to this naturopath, Kate. And she's a little more cautious. Like, she sees the benefits, don't get me wrong, especially for shorter fasts.
Right.
But she's wary of, like, doing these super long fasts without, really knowing what you're getting into.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to just jump into a 40-day fast without doing your homework.
Exactly. And she brings up a really important point that it's not just physical. This is mental and emotional, too. It messes with your relationship with food.
Oh, for sure. Like, our relationship with food is so complicated. It's not just about, fueling your body. It's emotional, it's social, it's everything.
Totally. And that's where this other guy, Michael Adamides, comes in. He's a psychotherapist. And he talks about how what we eat, it directly affects our brains, our moods. He even says, like, a lot of us are, in a way, addicted to food.
Addicted. Like, we're hooked on that dopamine hit from a sugary snack.
Exactly. And fasting, in a way, it could help break that cycle.
So it's like hitting the reset button, not just on your body, but your mind, too.
That's how Dr. Robert Morse, another expert in the film, sees it. It's like this clearing out process, physical and emotional, making space for real healing.
Wow. So they're not shying away from the tough stuff in this documentary.
Not at all. Yeah, when we get into the brothers' experience, like actually doing this fast, let me tell you, it gets real.
Okay, well, they did choose a pretty intense location for this.
Right.
Mount Warning in Australia. Gorgeous but rugged. You're really out there.
No kidding. And, the environment, it plays a huge role, especially when your senses are heightened from fasting. Tyler Tolman, he's their mentor during all this. He really emphasizes that.
Okay, so we've got these brothers, total opposites in some ways, heading off to the Australian wilderness to put their bodies and minds through the ringer. What could go wrong?
Oh, you have no idea.
So much for that mountaintop serenity, huh?
Right.
You mentioned preparation. What happens? What do they do when things get tough?
Well, first, remember how they're expecting this pure mountain spring water?
Yeah, that was part of the plan, right?
Turns out, not so much.
Yeah.
They have to use this filtered bore water instead. Not exactly ideal for a detox.
It's like, what's the point, right? If you're trying to purify your body.
Yeah, it's like a wrench in the works. And it really highlights something their mentor, Tyler, talks about. You've got to prep your body. Like, really flood it with nutrients beforehand.
To make the transition easier.
Exactly.
Okay, so the water situation, it's a curveball. But they're out there, right? They're committed.
They're in it. But it's not easy. Both of them, they really go through it emotionally.
Really?
Loneliness, doubt, all this stuff starts coming up. Past traumas even.
It's like the fasting is bringing everything to the surface.
Totally. Like a magnifying glass for your emotions, right?
Yeah.
And this is where you really see how connected our minds and bodies are. We try to separate them, but
Yeah, they're one and the same, really.
exactly. And they actually show the brothers doing this intense breathwork thing. It's called rebirthing.
Rebirthing.
Okay.
I'm going to need you to elaborate on that one.
So basically it's about confronting these buried emotions, really letting them go.
Yeah.
And there's this doctor in the film, Dr. Carly. She talks about how these unprocessed emotions, they can actually manifest physically.
It's like holding on to all this baggage. It weighs you down.
Exactly.
So we've got the challenges, the emotional detox, all of that. But what about the results? Do they show any success stories in this? People who found what they were looking for through fasting?
Oh, yeah. And these stories are incredible. So there's this one woman, Storm. She had Lyme disease for years, like debilitating,
Awful.
and nothing was helping. But then she does this 21-day fast with Tyler, their mentor.
Yeah.
And it's like she heals.
Wow. So it's like you give your body a chance and it knows what to do. It can heal itself.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But, everyone's different. What works for one person.
Right, right.
And then there's this other guy, Danner. This one's really something.
Okay.
So he gets diagnosed with colorectal cancer,
Right.
goes the conventional route, chemo, radiation, the works.
The whole 9 yards.
But then a year later, it comes back.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And he's feeling, hopeless. And that's when he decides to try this 21-day fast in Bali with Tyler again.
Wow. So this is like a last resort for him.
Pretty much. And honestly, they don't sugarcoat it in the documentary. He goes through hell,
No.
physically, emotionally, you name it.
Really digging deep.
Oh, yeah. But here's the thing. After the fast, he goes back for scans, and the cancer, it's gone.
Gone. Like no sign of it. I mean, that's incredible. But we should be careful here, right? This isn't like a guarantee. People listening, they need to know that.
Absolutely. Danner's story, it's his story. It's not medical advice.
Right, right.
It's about possibilities.
Yeah.
And making informed decisions. Talk to your doctor.
For sure. Okay, so they fast. They go through all of this. But what happens after? Like coming off a fast, isn't that tricky?
It's huge. And the film actually quotes Socrates on this. Any fool can fast, but it takes great wisdom to break a fast properly.
Okay, I like that.
Right. Refeeding, it's crucial. You do it wrong, you can get something called refeeding syndrome. It can be really bad.
Refeeding syndrome. So what's that?
It's basically your body goes into shock because it's so used to not having food. And then suddenly, bam, you overload it.
So no pizza binges after a 20-day fast.
Not a good idea. The brothers, they ease back in slowly. Juice at first, really listening to their bodies.
So what about long-term? Did they follow up with these guys?
They did, yeah. 8 months later, they're back. More blood work, see what's changed.
And it's interesting. Sinclair, the brother with the chronic pain.
Yeah.
His liver enzyme levels, they were up a bit right after the fast.
Because his liver was working so hard to, like, detoxify.
Exactly. But here's the thing. 8 months later, back to normal. The liver is amazing, so resilient.
That's good to hear. What about his pain, though? Did the fasting help with that?
Well, that's the thing about healing, isn't it? It's not always a straight line.
Right.
He was still experiencing some pain, but he realized something. It wasn't just about the pain itself,
That's interesting.
It was about getting to the root of it. He realized he had some other stuff going on, his kidneys, his adrenals.
So it's like the fasting, it kind of opened up a whole new understanding of his body.
Totally.
Oh.
And what about Saxon, right? The younger brother.
Yeah. How did he do?
So he comes out of it, and he's got this, sense of purpose. He actually becomes a fasting coach.
Wow, really?
Yeah, with his brother. They're helping other people do this now.
That's amazing. It's like this whole thing. It wasn't just a 40-day thing. It was
A total transformation.
exactly for their minds, their bodies, even their lives, it sounds like.
And that's what I love about this documentary, fasting. The healer within, it shows you the whole picture. It's not just fasting is great, do it. It's real,
Yeah. It sounds like it encourages you to ask questions, figure out what works for you.
Exactly. And to listen to your body.
So as we wrap up here, what would you say is the biggest takeaway from all of this? What do you hope our listeners really remember?
I think it's that fasting, it's a tool. It's powerful, but it's not a magic solution.
Right.
It's about the whole journey,
Yeah.
your health, your life, it's all connected.
Well said. It's about tuning in, figuring out what your body needs. Maybe it's fasting. Maybe it's something else entirely.
Exactly. And there's no one right answer for everyone.
This has been fascinating. Thank you so much for taking us on this deep dive.
Thank you for having me.
And to our listeners, if any of this resonated with you, if it sparked your curiosity, don't just take our word for it. Do your own research, talk to your healthcare provider, see what works for you, and until next time, keep exploring.